Ooh, we got something to talk about today. What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and yes, I read Magi. Before we hop into a talk about Magi, though, I have to ask you to please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and now let's hop right into it. I should have done this video like forever ago. However, I was waiting for March because I was going to make that entire month Magi month, but I figured, you know what? I might as well give my hot, raw thoughts while I've been reading it and rereading it. I finished the series already. I have been rereading randomly a chapter because you know what I do. I go back and look for feats because obviously I plan to scale the series, have been scaling the series. But I'm not here to talk about scaling today. This is purely a narrative, character, what I liked about the series, what I didn't like about the series. This is just me talking about raw thoughts. I haven't written anything down. I haven't done anything crazy. I do plan to do all that in March though, so get ready for Magi March, I guess. I don't know. I have plans. I really do when it comes to talking about Magi. But regardless, enough of that, enough of the future. Let's talk about right now. What do I think about Magi? Actually, you know what? Flat score right now. If I had to give Magi a score, I would give it a 8 to 9 out of 10. 8 to 9 out of 10. And the reason, actually, you know what? Maybe not an 8 to 9, maybe a 7 to an 8. Leaning more towards the 8. Fine, forget the numbers. No, I'm kidding. It's an 8 to 9. It's an 8 to 9. Here's why. Characters, fantastic. And I mean this in multiple ways. As an artist, I can extremely respect the character design. Each character is designed very, very well, especially for how many characters the mangaka had to design. Hold on. Otaka Sensei, you are amazing. Oh my. Like the character diversity in the character designs. And one of the things that blows me away, here's the thing. In general, I consider myself a weird sort of artist because a lot of my art, y'all can see it. Whenever I incorporate my own art style, it's typically off of references that I use and see. And my own art style is very, very weird. It's a coupled together mess of a lot of art style pieces that I like, and I take what I want and I make it my own art style. That's why if you look at my channel logo and avatar, and basically every time I feature him, he's designed in a way where you can see multiple elements from different series, from Dragon Ball to Naruto to Seven Deadly Sins. You can see a lot of different elements taken from different series, and I think I'm going to steal some stuff from Magi, because Magi is so... It's interestingly designed for the fact of how simple yet complex it is. Because when you look at a character like Aladdin, or you look at a character like Alibaba, or even you look at a character like Morgiana, the details themselves are rather simple, but where it gets complex is the extra little details that come in. Like Alibaba, the multiple layers in Alibaba's clothes, the different design aspects on Aladdin, like the jewel on his head and the layer underneath his shirt. Even Morgiana, well, she does take a little bit of time for a character to actually get like a unique, solid outfit like the other two have. What makes her stick as well is the different details she has on her, from the state of her dress to what she's wearing, the little details on her arm. Magi lets you... It gives you a basic character design that you can remember. All these characters have fantastic silhouettes. However, on top of that, they also have these nice extra little details that are amazing to see. Very hard to replicate as a person who's tried to draw a Magi before. However, that's great. Character design is fantastic. Characters themselves, I think they're great. I can't necessarily say there's a character I don't like. There are characters who I think have wasted potential. There are characters who I think could have been done better. However, I'm not a writer, so I'm here to praise. The first half of the video is going to be nothing but praise, and there's a lot of praise. If I had to give some of my favorite characters, no particular order, off the top of my head, Aladdin's up there. Really, really due to his... Man, Aladdin has such a great character journey. Aladdin's up there. Alibaba's up there. Morgiana's up there. Oh, you're just naming the main characters. Yes. Kogyoku Ren is up there. No, not Kogyoku Ren. Ren Kome, I think that's his name. That's the thing, there's so many characters in Magi, but still, the oldest brother, the one who was supposed to become emperor before Arbor went nuts, and I like him. Hakuriku, I have issues with Hakuriku, but I still like him a lot. Who else? There's so many. Kogyoku is one of my favorite characters. Like, I was not ready for this random female character who ended up attacking our main group at in the first major arc to suddenly become one of my favorites, but she did. That's amazing. I like character. I even like... Now you may be wondering, why haven't you mentioned Sinbad yet? I have mixed feelings about Sinbad. That's why I've been hesitant to talk about Magi in the first place. Like, I like him a lot, but I also want to finish Adventures of Sinbad before I talk about Sinbad in full, because I know I'm missing a lot of stuff from Sinbad there. Because Sinbad, as he acts in the... We're trying to talk about that later, but I still like Sinbad a lot. I think he's a fantastic design, fantastic character. I'm going to talk about him later. I think not only does Sinbad have a character design, I think David gives me a lot of father vibes. Like, if you've read Full Metal Alchemist, you know exactly who I'm talking about. David reminds me a lot of father, and it's because they really do fill out similar roles in terms of the narrative, except I think David does father just a little bit better, mainly for how he's that's a weird thing. I'm gonna definitely do a video on David versus Father, because I think those are two very interesting characters to talk about in comparison to one another, because they fill very similar roles. I think he's great. I think Ugo's journey is really, really interesting, despite how little we see of it. And I think Arba is easily my favorite villain. I think she does so much for the narrative. Like, our big bads like David and Ilala, they're really good. They're good for the function that they have to fulfill, but Arba has really interesting character, really interesting power. She's just interesting all around, and I like that. And I think that those like characters I have to give like the main mentions right off the top of my head if I had to go with characters. Now there's one more I'm trying to think of. And you know, I've so much more to praise. I'm definitely going to talk about a whole bunch of these characters later. Oh, the younger brother, the one with the portals. I forget his name. There's so many characters, and they've so. I've got to definitely talk about how to do an ensemble cast, and Magi's definitely the way to do an ensemble cast. Kasim, despite how little we got of him and how sparsely he appears as referenced throughout the rest of the series, I think Kasim is fantastic. And the younger brother of Ren Kome, I think he's great. I'm forgetting his name right now though. He has the portals. He has the teleportation magic. He's the one who was banished and exiled. I don't think the other brother, we're gonna move on to the next praise. I think the story builds up very, very, very well, because I mean, it's a massive leap by the end. However, what I like is you start off small, like literally so small, like it's sort of a piecemeal narrative at that point, because we don't meet our technically three other main characters until very late into the series. We don't have the 4 until like I think 100 chapters in. But first we start off with Aladdin, and then Aladdin meets Alibaba, and then Alibaba and Aladdin meet Morgiana, and then Morgiana, Aladdin, and Alibaba all meet Hokuriku. And I think the narrative progression does very, very well on a character scale and on a narrative scale, because stakes narrative scale in particular, because we start off small. Barely, the conflict is isolated to Aladdin, Alibaba, and Morgiana, and it's really Morgiana's main arc of finding freedom, and that's through the first dungeon arc, and that's fine. It's very small scale. It's locked down to not even a nation yet. It's just one dungeon with this one group of people, and then it grows to not necessarily, well, technically, yeah, it grows to a nation, because it goes back to Alibaba. I almost said Aladdin. Alibaba's past, and all around it just does good. I think from how well this series handles its growth from the one dungeon to the one nation to the multiple nations colliding in on each other in the terms of the Magastan. I have no idea how to pronounce the magician's capital name. I'm sorry. I've read that name so many times. I have no idea how to pronounce it. Someone please drop that down below. But how it grows to that, to the two countries interfering with each other, till it grows to the entire world really working together and the threat seems unseen, to the entire hyperverse getting collapsed. When I tell you Magi leaps in like power, like legitimate, like if the weakest character in Magi that has actual feats compared to the strongest character in Magi that has actual feats, the gap is literally dimensions, and I'm not even kidding. And not power scale. I'm not power scale. That's really good. Narrative growth is really, really good. Let me see what else. I think the art's fantastic. Man, like and this isn't, you have to work. I don't say you have to work hard to impress me with your art. Like Otaka Sensei impressed me with their art in Magi. You have to consistently have art that, if it's not highly detailed, in like insanely detailed, in the case of something like Record of Ragnarok and or something like My Hero Academia, you have to make sure your art is distinct. You have to make it stand out, and I think Otaka Sensei did a fantastic job doing that. So obviously I think the art's great. I feel like I've hit on so many things. I think a lot of the character arcs are great. I have issues with some. I have issues with some of their conclusions, but that's it. I think the lore is super interesting. I feel weird about the lore though, but positives. I'm thinking the lore. I think the lore is great. I think all that's fantastic. And let me see what else is. There's so much to talk about with Magi that I know I can't do it all in this one video, especially since I don't want this video to be like 3 hours long of me just sitting here and rambling about Magi. However, I'm trying to think off the top of my head what else is something I could directly put. The fights. How can I not? I'm stupid. The fight choreography is amazing. I need to actually look up and watch some of the fights in the anime. I know the anime never got finished. I think season 3 never came out, but I know Adventures of Sinbad got some anime. I know seasons 1 and 2 of Magi got animated. I don't know where it ends though. I think it ends sometime around Haku. No, I think it ends around the Magastar War. I think so. However, the fight's fantastic. Great weight, great energy. It's hard to convey weight in my mind through like drawings because they're still images. It's easier to do an animation because you can add shake effects, blah blah blah. But the way that the mangaka manages to convey such like power through the attacks, it feels good. I think the fights are very well choreographed, and I think the best thing about these fights is that you can almost tell where they're going to go based on what the narrative has told us. A lot of issues I have with certain fights are that I really, in most shonen or most fighting series in general, the main issue I have sometimes is I have no idea who's going to win, usually because I get used to like some Deus Ex Machina get pulled out of nowhere and bam, suddenly the character wins. However, Magi does that on occasion, but it doesn't do it as much. And a lot of the fights, when they happen, I can tell, oh yeah, I can feel satisfied reading the fight because nothing comes out of nowhere, sucker punches me in the jaw and says, accept this, little boy, and then I just have to roll with it. But that's enough praise for right now. Let me talk about some of the things that I'm not saying these are bad. Don't take me as saying any of these are bad, and if you enjoyed them, great. However, I read Magi. This is my view on it, so let me hop into it. I think the end of series time skip was pointless, and that's the thing. No, I don't think the time skip was pointless. I think it was weird that it happened, but I understand why it happened. I think the end of the series sort of, when I say it leaped in power, I also mean it leaps in narrative too. I think the mangaka was doing a great job of like progressively building, but by suddenly uniting this entire world, and no, this can entirely change in context once I read Adventures of Sinbad fully. I'm only about like 50 chapters into that, so this may change. Don't get me wrong. This could completely flip on its head. However, I feel like the leap in power that our main characters got either felt pointless or just wasn't used. So if you know what happens at the end of Magi, Aladdin's the only one I think it works perfectly fine. I have no issues with in terms of our protagonist, because Aladdin mastering Solomon's wisdom and Aladdin mastering the magic of the old world Almatoran and the new world, it's perfectly fine with me. It makes sense. It's a logical growth for his character as a magician, and it seems like what he was going to do anyway. I think that's fine. I think it works out perfectly. Aladdin? No, not Aladdin. Alibaba, I think his end power up is sort of, it's weird, right? Like, maybe this is just me. Maybe hopefully someone can spin in the comment section below for me. But did his power of like being able to slow down his perception ultimately so he could react freely to whatever came at him, did that ever really come into play in a major fight? I don't think so, only because there wasn't really a major fight that Alibaba was in that necessitated that anymore. Like, if that ability would have been useful against someone like Hakuriku back when he fought him, it would have been useful way back when against Kasim, it would have been useful there. But since Alibaba doesn't really fight any like people anymore, he doesn't need it. Like, I think a pre-time skip Alibaba, pre-death Alibaba could have taken care of pretty much everything that he ran into just fine. Like, sure, the ability was cool. I like it. It was great for versus battles. It's like the ultimate Sharingan, but I'm struggling to find a reason why that was a necessary thing. And the same thing comes in for Hakuriku's training. He literally fought one person that wasn't Sinbad, and it was Arba, if I'm not mistaken, and it ended up not working. He just couldn't do anything. He was on the back foot. And same case with Morgiana. While her training with the Phanelis and her coming forth, and literally one of my favorite moments in the entire series is when Arba hyped herself up. I'm the greatest swordsman in Alamatoran, and I'm the strongest person from there. Y'all ain't running my fade. And then Morgiana pulls up, starts styling on her, and says, the only reason you were the strongest in Alamatoran is because you didn't fight the Phanelis. I'm like, that was fire. That was fire. That was one of my favorite moments in the entire series. However, she didn't win. Like, that's the thing. She did not win. And like all her ant training got thrown away even worse because at least Hakuriku, at least Alibaba, at least Judar, at least all these characters, Aladdin, they got to go fight Sinbad. They were all special enough to go fight Sinbad. What was Morgiana special enough to do? To get taken over, have a Rook written, and just become the loyal housewife for Alibaba, and stick back and wait until the Ruth was freed for everyone and go do the rest of her part. I think that was bad. Not bad. I get why, because technically Morgiana doesn't have a special exemption, because Judar has a special exception because he's fallen. Hakuriku has a special exemption because he's part fallen. Alibaba has a special exception because he died and his Ruth is different. Aladdin isn't from that world, so technically his Ruth, while native kind of to that world because he lives in it, doesn't mean he's actually a part of it. So I get that, but why couldn't Morgiana have an exception so she could come fight, especially since Sinbad had 7 forms? Did anyone else find it weird that we kind of just got cut off after the 4th? Like we skipped the all last 3 to have the conversation, but I feel like do I talk about it now? I'm going to talk about this again in Magi month. However, I feel like a better solution would have been let everyone fight as they were, and then just add 2 more. Add Yunnan, the other special Magi who should be exempt since he's been constantly revived in the barrier between the Dark Continent, Almatoron, and the New World. He should have been able to be exempt, and let Morgiana be exempt because you could let Morgiana have some royal lineage. You could have. I'm going to stop there. I'm definitely going to make an entire video talking about how I would change Morgiana to let her fit more into the entire narrative. But other than that, like literally that's my only complaint off the top of my head. I think there's a lot of characters, and I think sometimes some characters get lost in the background. However, I don't have a problem with any of the villains. I think Ilala was boring, but that's his point. Ilala wasn't a villain. He was sort of just a clump of, as the series describes it, he was a clump of power, and that power got used by one of his own creations in David, and then Solomon, and really that's it. Oh, the only other issue I have, I feel like not Almatoran. What is it? Althalman. Althalman sort of got washed too quickly. Like I feel like Aladdin flexing on them with his father's magic is. When he I expected it, but like when he does it and like all the magic goes away and you just see him flick his finger up at the end of that chapter and he's like, oh, I'm like, oh yeah, baby. But at the same time, I'm like, Althalman was such like this massive threat. Arba was such this massive threat. But now with our characters training from these characters that we really, I mean, the Ancient Dragon was built up. I like that. The Ancient Dragon was there. And maybe I'm just missing Nanamui and her king. I think maybe that's it. I just don't remember that missing kingdom. I think it was alluded to before earlier in the month. This is what happens when you speed read an entire 343. I'm pretty sure it's 343 chapters of manga in like a week. However, I think I just missed those details. So maybe it's there. I just feel like the training at the same time was useless, but was at the same time too good. Like I think it ended up being their post time skip power ups ended up being pretty much useless for Alibaba, Hakuriku, and Morgiana. But I think Aladdin's post time skip buff gave him too much power, which is good because that's what Aladdin's supposed to be. But at the same time, I'm like, and that's it. I'll talk about that more in the future though. And on to Sinbad. I think Sinbad is good. He's good. He's a good character. He has a great design. He does a lot of great things. He's one of the most interesting morally gray characters I've ever seen written. However, I feel like, once again, I need to finish reading Adventures of Sinbad, so maybe at the end of that narrative it tells me something about it. Does anyone else feel like Sinbad's story ended weirdly? That he sort of just disappeared alongside David? I don't know. Like Sinbad being built up as this singularity, this person who could see fate, ride the waves of it. I don't know. Him just like noping himself out of the narrative kind of confused me at the end. And like he says, oh, I'll be back one day. And yeah, probably through another reincarnation. That's the same thing David kept saying to all those who were strapped in the afterlife of Almatoron. However, I'm not sure if Magi's getting a sequel, and I'm not sure how far Adventures of Sinbad goes, so I'll probably give an update on this in March when I finish reading Adventures of Sinbad. I'll see if my thoughts change. But I don't know, as much as I like David, as much as I like Ilala, as much as I like all those like end of series tier, like these, but like these these multi-complex, multiversal to high to possibly hyperversal, if you want to go with Sinbad's plans, like these high tier villains, I feel like there's no, like they don't even come close to villains like Kasim. They don't come close to villains like Matal, like these great villains that we could like empathize with and understand and feel like a tie to their motivations. By making them so outer worldly and like such this existential kind of threat, it sort of removed what made the earlier villains so personal and good to me. Like Sinbad's betrayal, I think it was gaslighted way too quickly. Like how, like maybe this is just me, and remember, I went into Magi completely blind. Like I had seen the series in passing. Like, you want to know how in passing I had seen the series? I remember Nuxtaku likes the series. That's about it. And and I was asked to read it. That's about all I knew about Magi. I had seen it on Netflix like once or twice. I'd seen Adventures of Sinbad, I think. But I hadn't watched it. I just knew it was there. But regardless of that, and I know Sinbad just is like a character household favorite name. However, the moment Sinbad was introduced, he was too shady to me. Like because of how Sinbad acted, I never trusted Sinbad, and I think that's a good thing. I think that works for his character. But however, him becoming a villain doesn't hit for me as much as I think it should have. But that's just me. That's because I'm weird. It's because I'm weird and I don't trust things, especially in fiction, where I'm like, you mad evil, dog. You don't have to tell me. I don't worry. Just don't worry. I can tell. I can tell you're evil. It's okay. But we'll talk about that at a later date. And the last thing I have to say was a little bit strange, and I wish we got a little bit more of. And this may be in Adventures of Sinbad, so don't take this as like a solid critique. This is maybe something I just need to go read. I feel like Almatoran and its entire backstory, like when I say I was sucker punched, like I felt like a bandit Urshifu came out of nowhere and just sucker punched me when I was trying to read the manga. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know where it happened. I don't know how. But like, Almatoran came in, popped me across the face and said, "Take this lore now, boy," and then ran off. Like, I knew Almatoran was always there. I knew it was a part of the narrative, and I respect that, and I think that's cool. However, the lore dump in the way it was done, I'm not saying it could have been done better, because I think it was a necessity, and I know it's very, very hard to like gently sprinkle lore throughout your entire series. I think that's difficult. So Almatoran was just a little bit weird for me. It was a little bit like a little sprinkle of like, huh? That's about it. Like, here's the thing. For every single negative I have about Magi, yeah, this is definitely an 8 to 9 out of 10 series. What am I saying? 7 to 8. But think about this. For every negative thing I have to say about Magi, there are like 5 positives. I could go on about every single character that I could go on about Sinbad, Alibaba, Magi, Morgiana. Man, I messed myself up. But basically, I can go on for these characters for days. I can go on this narrative for days. I can talk about this for forever. And I hope to a lot. That's why I'm dedicating an entire month to it in about 2 months. However, I did want to get this video out. This is my raw thoughts. I haven't even completed Adventures of Sinbad, so don't spoil that in the comment section down below. It's a prequel though, so I feel like there's not much to spoil. And I already know, because I read the end of Magi, that the princess fell to depravity, and she's the reason why Zepar is like corrupted, and there's 2 of them. However, neither here nor there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me your hot takes about Magi. I want to hear it. I want to hear it. If you have any hot takes, drop them. If you have any cold takes, drop them. I want to hear how much love for the series is out there, because I think this is a very, very interesting series that's also very, very, very strong. Like, especially towards the back end, like the series went from a respectable place, like in the tiers, like a lot of characters in their Gen equip forms, or even just characters like Morgiana and Masur, could run through a lot of verses thanks to their feats. However, I feel like in the end, it just says, manga just went, nah, we're making this super strong. So drop your takes. I want to hear it. Man, this video went on for way too long. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.